being a one and being a strict perfectionist and looking at things in black and white doesn't leave room for flexibility. So in my role, I'm having to interact with a lot of different people from different backgrounds and different enneagrams. So the battle for me is having to work with those people effectively and efficiently, and also building relationships and respecting the different enneagram types that those people are. So it's a bit of a exercise, but I'm getting there.
I'm currently the payroll team leader. However, I'm running the payroll, and I'm the person who makes sure that does the transfers of the monies into the various bank accounts of people. So, yeah, and the Enneagram 1, me, I've got to be focused and be accurate, and with payroll and with working with monies, you can't go wrong and you can't make mistakes or afford to make mistakes.
Dealing with anger, if it's coming from my side or from the other person perhaps, it's a very scary feeling, very uncomfortable feeling. There's this thinking that I have that as a manager I cannot break down. I can't be seen at the office space breaking down because it means that I'm not coping or I'm less of a manager, so I try not to show that. But when the urge is there and I have to do it, I'll do it alone somewhere else, and I'll come back and pretend everything is fine, which is not healthy.
There are many months that I sort of get to the point where I can see that I might run into problems, and the reason for that is that I take up too much of my time, too much of the time, and with the payroll environment, you only get a set time to run that certain payroll. So I sort of go too much in detail at times. We've got a lot of audits and checking to do. So when I get focused on those kind of things, I sort of the extend time, and many times I feel I'm going to be in trouble because of that.
Yeah. Before I left the office, I had to go and make sure that my hands are clean, have hand lotion, my face is powdered, my hair is neat and prim and proper, and my belt is in shape, and everything is neat, and I'm not shining, and it's quite an exercise. And at home, the way I coordinate my cupboards, it just shows. So the blacks is together, the whites are together. And if I open up the cupboard and I see there's a black item in between the white items, I try and ignore it, but it gets to me. I get up and I have this urge to go and sort things out and put blacks together and the whites together. When I hang my clothes in the washing line, when I hang the white clothes, I must use clear color pegs. And when I hang jeans, I must use dark blue. And if I try to mix them up and see, because I sometimes test myself and I try and mix them up, I'll actually sit and in a conversation I'll get up and I'll go back and coordinate things accordingly, which is, I know it's funny because I laugh about it, but yeah, it just feels uncomfortable.
I very much suppress my feelings. It doesn't come out immediately. I can build it up inside, but I can show it with the bodies, the looks, I can ignore people and I can just cut myself off when I'm angry, and that is how I react to anger. What happens though is that if I'm angry and it comes out on paper, if we converse via email, or the anger comes out. But when I talk to you, I won't show that anger, not verbally, but I'll show you the distance that I keep, and that is how I show my anger. That's how I deal with it. I don't like to be angry anyway.
And also how I coordinate my desk. I don't like, if I walk into a person's office and it's in a state, I immediately draw up assumptions about who they are. That they're very disorganized and unprofessional and things like that, which is a bit mean. Although I won't say it verbally, but it's assumptions are formed inside, but I don't allow them to overcloud my thinking about the person. And well, from my side, when I go home at night, I need to make sure my desk is packed and everything is neat and it's where it should be. And when I come back, following day, I need to find things where I left them. So I've sort of built that into my day, so it doesn't take additional time. For someone else, it might be time consuming, but for me, it's already in me. I don't feel that it's time consuming. I think the drive is this huge drive of being perfect. Yes. When I go out, I need to look presentable. I need to look neat for people to respect and take me seriously, perhaps. And maybe because I'm very career orientated. I see myself somewhere. Not that I'm not content with where I am right now, but I think for me to get to where I should be, I need to have people take me seriously.
If somebody does something wrong, I won't just say that you are doing that wrong. I always back it up with what is right, if I know what is right, and I think that's the lesson learned for me.
I think initially when I started with the company that I'm with right now, it was a huge battle because being a one, if I get a presentation from some month-end report, typically, from one of the managers that report to me, instead of looking at the information that's contained, I'll be looking at the font, if it's all Arial 12, and it's the bullet points are same color, and if the graphs are the same color, and if you've used the same chart type in your presentation. And once I've done all of that, then I would look at the report or the information. But I'll make a point of going back and making the person aware that, you know what, for people, if you're going to be presenting at senior level, perhaps, it's important that you look at the format of your presentation. Now, that for somebody else, it could be constructive feedback, but I could also be hurting other people as well, because I'm not focusing on what it is that I wanted. I wanted a report. I didn't specify it must be 24 or 28, so why am I saying that? But I won't say I've mastered, but I'm very much conscious of that. And I need to also understand that if I prefer to do a report in Arial 24, it's fine. It doesn't mean the rest of the world must do it in the same format. And so it does come up quite a lot. My Enneagram 1 comes up quite a lot. And predominantly me being a perfectionist, it comes up quite a lot. And sometimes at my own expense, where if something is due on the 25th, there'll be a strong need from me to give it on the 20th. But at the same time, I'm putting myself under a lot of pressure. And for what reason, I don't know. So what I've done in dealing with late coming is when a person notifies me via SMS or telephonically, I'll acknowledge what they're telling me. And I would say, well, thanks very much for making me aware. I'll chat to you later on. And then I'll give myself space to breathe, to deal with that feeling of wanting to say something. And then I'll have a chat and say, what happened this morning? And have a very casual chat. But if it becomes a concern, then I'll also choose a different environment and platform to address the concern. But also very mindful of not attacking the individual, but raising concern with the behavior that's being displayed. And it's helped because in doing that, it's a much more mature way of dealing with it. And it's not tarnishing or messing up my relationships. Because before I wasn't aware of it, and I stepped on a few people's toes because of that.
You want to complete. I think that's the one thing, is that you don't like to leave things undone. Even if it's going to take you more time than it takes for others, it bothers you when something is not done. Either you don't do it and you leave it completely, but if you start it, you want to complete it. And I think that is, even if you don't complete it, it's still going to be in the back of your mind that, that it bothers me that I did not complete a certain task or something that I wanted to do. So I think that is the motivation of this whole thing. Yeah. So it's all about getting it complete and, dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
It's a lot of work being a one. It's a lot of work. And if one isn't aware of it and aware of those trigger things and those trigger points, you could end up being alone and miserable and unhappy because you're pushing everybody away and you're wanting things to be done your way. Especially if you're a mom as well, if you're bringing up a child. And I think my daughter is also one. Yeah, so, but it's a lot of work being a one, and there's benefit to being a one, but there's also disadvantages to being a one. And I think it's just, as long as one is aware, I think part of the program spoke about the fact that we are not boxed into this oneness. You are bigger than that. But at the same time, it helps to be aware of all of those things. Where are your anger points? What makes you tick? What are the things you should be avoiding? What things you should be aware of? And then in your daily interactions with people, because as a manager, you work with and through people, and it's important to have healthy relationships. So I think for me as a manager in the workspace, being aware of my reportees in terms of where they're at, in the Enneagram types, it's helped me become more effective in managing them, in terms of enabling them and understanding how to manage them. And also respecting the fact that I like doing things in a very fast pace. Somebody else is slow, but it doesn't make them less of an employee. But before, I had this name calling thing that this person is so lazy, this person is so not committed, this person is so not that, which is not a good thing to do. So I'm glad that I understand where I'm at. But again, the one in me is wanting to see a change rapidly. And it's not going to happen overnight. That's something I've learned to understand, that I'm not going to change this overnight. And it's okay. But as long as I have a plan, or I work towards changing myself.